In the quiet town of Warm Springs, Georgia, during the early 20th century, a man arrived seeking healing. He was not just any man. He was Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who would later become the 32nd President of the United States. But before he was president, before he was a symbol of hope for millions, he was a man struck by tragedy. At the age of 39, Roosevelt was diagnosed with polio. Overnight, the strong, energetic politician who loved sailing, hiking, and walking through the woods was confined to a wheelchair. For most people, this would have been the end of dreams, the collapse of ambitions. But for Roosevelt, it became the beginning of a story that would touch the hearts of an entire nation. In those days, disability was seen as weakness. Politicians did not survive if they appeared vulnerable. Roosevelt could have withdrawn from public life, hidden away in despair, and been remembered only as a man of promise cut short. Yet instead, he traveled to Warm Springs, a place known for its soothing mineral waters. He hoped for a cure, but what he found was something far greater: courage, resilience, and a new purpose. In Warm Springs, Roosevelt was not a politician or a patient. He was simply a man among men, swimming in the warm waters, lifting himself with iron braces, falling down and getting up again. He found strength not in the cure of his illness, but in the determination to keep living fully despite it. As the Great Depression struck America in 1929, millions of Americans lost their jobs, their homes, and their hope. Bread lines stretched for blocks, farms dried up in the Dust Bowl, banks closed their doors forever. People were desperate for a leader who could remind them that even in the darkest storm, light could still break through. Roosevelt stepped forward, not hiding his paralysis, but transforming his personal battle into a national message of hope. When he stood to take the oath of office in 1933, supported by hidden braces and strong arms on either side, his voice thundered across the crowd: "The only thing we have to fear is fear itself." Those words became a lifeline for a nation on its knees. Behind closed doors, Roosevelt fought daily with his disability. Every movement was a struggle. He practiced tirelessly to appear as if he could stand unaided, not because he was ashamed, but because he wanted Americans to see strength when they looked at him. He understood that leadership was not about walking tall, but about standing firm in spirit. And so he worked tirelessly, guiding America through the Depression with the New Deal, creating jobs, building bridges, schools, and roads, reminding people that progress was still possible. Then came World War II. Once again, Roosevelt's voice became the anchor of a frightened nation. When Pearl Harbor was attacked, he declared that it was a date which will live in infamy, and America rallied behind him. But what many did not know was that behind the strong voice of the commander-in-chief was a man who could not even climb stairs without help. He led the world's most powerful democracy from a wheelchair, hidden behind desks and podiums, but never hidden in spirit. In Warm Springs, where his struggle began, Roosevelt created a foundation to help children and adults suffering from polio. He built a place where they could swim in the same waters that gave him strength, where they could find community and dignity. The March of Dimes, an organization born from his vision, raised money not only to fight polio, but later to fund vaccines that would one day nearly wipe the disease from the earth. Millions of children who never even knew Roosevelt's name were saved because he refused to let his suffering go to waste. When Roosevelt died in 1945, the world mourned not just a president, but a man whose story was deeply human. He showed that strength is not the absence of weakness, but the courage to rise above it. He reminded America that hope is stronger than fear, and that leadership is born not from perfection, but from perseverance. Today, when you visit Warm Springs, you can still see the small house where Roosevelt lived, modest and simple, filled with photographs of the people he touched. You can still see the pool where he swam, the braces that carried him, and the wheelchair that became a silent witness to history. Tourists and school children walk through those halls not in sadness, but in awe of a man who refused to give up. Franklin Roosevelt's story is not just about politics or history. It is about the human spirit. It is about every person who has ever faced something that seemed impossible and chose to keep going. His life reminds us that even when our bodies are broken, our will can still be unshakable. He proved that a man who could not walk could still lead millions to stand tall. And so, when people speak of Roosevelt, they do not first think of the wheelchair or the disease. They remember the voice that lifted a broken nation, the courage that fought depression and war, and the spirit that still whispers to us today. Never give in. Never lose hope. Never believe that your weakness defines you. For in the end, it is not the obstacles we face that write our story, but the way we rise above them.